Well, I'm so excited that you guys are here because you're actually going to hear a fabulous presentation. We're going to be talking about youth mental health. And I think this is a topic that we can't talk enough about. So I get the pleasure of introducing our presenter today, but I also get the pleasure of moderating a panel discussion after our speaker. But before I do that, I get to tell you about a little ground rules. And I'm supposed to say, good afternoon. Welcome to the 8th Annual Pathways to Hope Conference. My name is Donna Costa, and I will be your workshop moderator. Again, welcome to everyone, and let's get started with a little housekeeping. We are requesting all attendees to complete an evaluation form after the session. The forms are located on the table in the back of the room for pickup. If you are attending the conference to receive continuing education units or CEUs, please listen carefully. All registered attendees seeking CEUs must remain in the session for the entire duration and must sign in with the proctor at the beginning of the workshop. A post-session survey is required for CEUs. The Friday sessions are approximately 60 minutes long, so one CEU unit will be issued upon approval. And in the areas of LPC, MFT, social workers, the Saturday sessions are approximately 90 minutes long, so 1.5 hour CEU units will be issued upon approval. Again, all registered attendees seeking CEUs must remain in the session for the entire duration and submit your evaluation at the end of the session to the proctor at the back of the room. Upon approval, CEUs will be emailed to you this year. Therefore, eligible printed names, email addresses, and cell phones are a must. And I can tell you, it's a must. We need to be able to read your handwriting. There's a table in the back where all persons seeking CEUs must sign in. If you have not already done so, do so now before our session begins. So now it's my pleasure to introduce to you our speaker. And let me grab her bio. Miss Alice Alvarez will be speaking to us today about the Bexar County system of care and the youth behavioral health system. Since 1992, Alice Alvarez has worked with families in early childhood as a teacher, certified child care director, Texas registered trainer, mentor, coach, Texas Department of Family and Protective Services child care licensing inspection, and the Kronkowski. Did I say that right? Because I was practicing.
I know, everybody does. It's a pinky, don't worry about it.
Kronkowski Charitable Foundation as a program manager for Bexar County CRCG and SOC. Today, Alice works as a consultant and contracts with the Kronkowski Foundation to continue the Bexar SOC efforts. Alice works closely with community, state, and national leaders to understand and strengthen community awareness of children and youth behavioral health system of care in Bexar County. She engages with and supports numerous area community advisory committees that focus on fostering collaboration for systems change. She connects with grassroots leaders and engages with the community to help create and organize programs to sustain community support for families and schools. Alice looks for opportunities to scale up and replicate current services, broaden awareness, normalize conversations, and create easy access for families to find behavioral health support and services. She has a BA in organizational management and an MA in education teacher leadership. And it is my pleasure to welcome to present to you Alice Alvarez.
Thank you. Here we go. Okay. And hold on. Okay, in case you're wondering, why does she have two mics? Is there something terribly wrong? Because I have a pretty flower here, and I have one of them is for the recording, and the other one is for y'all. So that's, I didn't forget. Because sometimes you look at people and go, what in the world? It's distracting. Okay, yes, I am Alice, and I now am, what do I call myself? A consultant for Engaging Voice. I am the president, the founder, the CEO, and the one and only employee. So I do a lot of things. and community engagement specialist. And I love the work. I love working with all of my friends. And I'm going to give you a little bit of history, and then we will move forward. So click. There we go. So some history, the current state of our Bexar County system of care, how we've progressed, and what our future looks like. Does anybody here remember Bear Cares? A little bit, right? And we had Bear Cares for a little while, and then it kind of went away. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Okay, click. Oh, and some of those little pictures, like you saw that little picture on the side, those are resources that I use to do the work. And if you'd like copies of the slides, I guess they could email me or email Donna, and we can get you copies of the slides. Yep. Okay, so System of Care grew out of our Community Resource Coordination Group, which is CRCG. Is anybody familiar with CRCG? Very good. So it's kind of a natural evolution of a CRCG. Because you'll notice those words, there's a lot of things that they do the same. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the CRCG, one, you can read. And the next, it's kind of wrapping around the family. So it's a case of a child or youth whose case is so complex, primarily in mental health. We get a lot of mental health. So complex that one organization, even CHCS, can't meet all of those families' needs. So they bring it to community. So there's about a good 70 to 80 of us now, probably a good 40 organizations that meet the second Tuesday of every month. They look at the case, and then everybody just starts to throw stuff out there. Because sometimes there's a grant, but it's only good for 2 years, and we can see them now, but next year, no. And different things like that. And sometimes we ask that the people joining are those that can kind of expand or move the paperwork a little bit quicker and things like that. So System of Care and CRCG both are around community services, supports, youth, coordinated, and partnerships, and of course the needs. Okay, click. So this is the history, and you'll notice the SAMHSA grant was pulled in 2018. That's what happened to Bear Cares. What our community unfortunately did at that time was start creating it as a program, and System of Care is not a program. It is a philosophy, very similar to trauma-informed care, which I'm sure y'all are familiar with. So trauma-informed care is a certification. It's the way you do your work. System of Care is how we work together, how we wrap around one another. Okay, click. I like the way I say click and my clicker clicks. In 2022, when I had to brag, we have the best CRCG in the state. So yay, Bexar County. In 2022, I took it to the group, and you'll see Donna, look, she's up there at the left with a big smile. And took it to the group and said, would y'all like to evolve? And the group said, yes. I said, okay, let's start working on System of Care. If you're familiar at all with System of Care, it's a grant through SAMHSA. Now, some people do their System of Care, some counties or states will do it with no funding. They take care of it themselves. We are trying to go out for one of those really nice SAMHSA grants, so I can have a job. So anyway, as you heard, I'm the only employee, which means I don't get paid. With the support, I'll try not to joke so much. With the support of SAMHSA, the National Training and Technical Assistance Center, our local CRCG and System of Care office, we all got together and working together and trying to make this happen. Because we know as individuals, there's so many services in Bexar County. We have a lot. How in the world do you find them? So you go pick up the resource guide that Bexar County Behavioral Health has. You go into Ecumenical Center and see what they've got. You go into all the websites, CHCS, what have they got? And there's a lot of hunting. So click, please. So we started to collaborate. And when you collaborate, you got to think about it kind of like making breakfast. So the chicken makes eggs every day if you're lucky, and the cow will give you some milk, and then there's the tree and the coffee, but the pig brings the bacon. So, we needed partners. my lady back here. We needed partners that were there and willing to do what they do, but we weren't looking for buy-in. We were looking for harmonizing, and I'll talk about that. Comes up a little bit later as well. Because I don't want you to change what you do. I want you to change nothing about what you do, because you do it very, very well. I want you to bring it in and just, how can we work together so that we're all, one, getting what we need, and just really bringing that talent and skill and love and compassion to the table. And so we're trying to harmonize with one another, okay? So I'm not going to read all of this to you, but the system of care is one, family and youth driven. So we're going to hear from family later. And because it shouldn't be the system, and y'all know this, it shouldn't be the system telling you what to do. You should tell the system what you need and how should we come together. And there's a lot of power there. That's something that me and my friend Tanya from juvenile probation noticed with the CRCG when we got into it, and we looked at each other and went, we could do a lot more with this. And so this is what has happened, because a lot of people thought the exact same thing when we started talking to others. Because it shouldn't be the systems telling us what to do. We need to tell them what to do. It is community-based, so what Bexar County needs is going to be different than what Kendall needs, but we're connected. What San Antonio is different than what Houston, and all of that. So it's very community-based, and it is culturally and linguistically competent, because my family runs different than your family. My neighborhood is different than your neighborhood. Our county is different from other counties, so it has to be aware of what that is. And y'all all know, I don't have to explain the rest to y'all. You're smart people. Okay, click. Oh, and you don't have to go back. But in there, it also said that it takes a good 3 to 6 years to build something like this, to bring it together. And when I originally put that in there, a little history on Alice. I used to be with the Kronkowski Foundation, just in case I look familiar to some people. But Kronkowski decided they weren't going to do initiatives anymore. So it's like, bye-bye, Alice. But right when they were telling me bye-bye, I'm like, can I take it with me? And they said yes. And so we're collaborating on how to keep it moving forward. But I had put that in there because at the time my boss was in the audience, and I wanted them to know this was not going to get done in 6 months. So always figure out ways to feed that. So the first thing we did is come up with our task force, and NAMI is part of our task force, as well as these other wonderful partners that you see here. And we purposely kept it small, because the more people you get in the room, which is wonderful sometimes, but sometimes it's not so wonderful, so that these organizations are connected to so many other organizations, collaborations, and the community. So we wanted to make sure that we had everybody's voice in it. So let's move forward, and let me know when I start running out of time, because I forgot to press the button. So the first thing we did was building connections and building trust, because this was also, what are they calling it, post-COVID. So a lot of people got very, very comfortable in their house, behind their computer, not talking to other people. We're real happy, because the commute from the bedroom to the bathroom to the desk was just too easy. We didn't want to leave that, but we had to. So it's like, how do we start connecting again? So we just started having connecting sessions, and these were very intense networking sessions. We had a scenario for each of our tables, and I come from, from the early childhood field, so we built little paper chains. And within the scenario, if at your table you had a resource and you knew the individual there, then you got a green chain. If you knew of an organization, but you didn't know anybody, you got a yellow one. And if we were like, it doesn't exist in our county, we don't have this, we got a red one. I was really happy after 4 or 5 sessions, I can't even remember anymore. How many did we have, my friend? Like 4 or 5, yeah, it was about there. We only had, through all of those, less than 10 red links, because usually we could solve them when we put it out to the bigger group. We could solve some of those red ones. They at least turned yellow. So we knew in San Antonio, we have resources. How do we pull it together? So let's go to the next one. So these are some of the sessions and the wonderful people that attended. And what came up from these sessions was, one, we want the city and the state representatives, so we're trying to figure out a way to bring that voice in. We wanted to do more of these connecting sessions, or how do we get to know each other, because network usually happens in the parking lot. You leave and you're like, oh yes, you, wait, I need your card, I'm gonna call you. We need to do it intentionally. It is very important. Don't let anybody tell you, oh yeah, you can do that, on your own time. No, networking is extremely important. And the different things that came up here on the bottom left were more information and more resources for runaways. Teen parent rights, because a teen can sign anything for their child, but they can't sign anything for themselves. So there's a disconnect in there. Qualifications for grandparent services, because if you've got a teen who's a parent, you might have a grandparent who's 40 or younger, like me, but don't laugh. And so, so those grandparent services, because some of them will say 55 and older, and we got that from our grandparents raising grandchildren. They're like, some of our grandparents are not 55 years old. Substance use disorder, I have that on there wrong, I always get corrected on it. Youth treatment, but the residential, where you live there for the treatment. And that's something we don't have in Bexar County. And of course, transportation is always up there on the top of the list. So we're trying to think of those things very creatively, and how can we expand, and how can we invent, and all of those wonderful things. We've made several really strong connections. That's 60, I think we're up to like 70 or 80, that have turned into formal collaborations, funding, MOUs, and then some really strong support and new CRCG participants, which we love. Okay, click. And so from all of this, we had one big meeting at the end, and we came up with the Bexar, I'm sorry, I'm going to read to you. The Bexar System of Care effort is working to create an alliance across multiple systems. That means not just mental health and physical health, but Parks and Rec, arts, the private owned organizations. A lot of people want to pass it forward, they just don't know how, they don't know where. So making opportunity for that. I'm just making a list of education, of course, and all of these different kinds of places. Harmonizing efforts to align goals, build trust, coordinate efforts, and drive system change. That trust is so important. We must get to know each other, get to know our organizations, because without trust, you're not going to work as comfortably, and you may not talk to each other as well. The work uses a community strength-based approach and occurs in the spaces where the work is already happening. So that's why I'm here today. I don't want to have another meeting, and you don't want to go to another one. So let me get into whatever you're doing, and I'll join, and we'll become best friends, and life is good. And we'll do that, all the way around. Is culturally and linguistically competent. We are strengthening connections between people across the systems. Is family and youth-led, investing in context experts to ensure those with lived experience are authentically engaged in all areas of decision-making. And when we get the grant, that they're paid. Because you get paid to be there, or maybe you don't, but we love it, so it's okay. Developing a shared vision to raise capacity, sustainability, and multiply investments. Meaning when the SAMHSA grant, because I'm talking positive, send it out there to the universe. When the SAMHSA grant comes in, that the SAMHSA grant can invest in those other areas. And when you get a big blessing, that the services you provide help you raise capacity, bring somebody else in. It's somebody referred yesterday to the stone soup. You bring the carrots, and I'll bring the potatoes, and we don't need the stones. We'll be okay. Click. So, who do we know? We were trying to think about who do we need to meet, and who do I need to find? So we're always searching for new. And we're using this as a logo because during the big meeting, we did another activity, and then everybody came and put their mark on the canvas, because every time y'all see it now, they see themselves in the work, because we do have to see ourselves in the work. So. Click, please. So this is our big meeting, and we had it appropriately on May the 4th be with you. because that's when we had our first one and it worked out. And we got little cookies of Guru or Baby Yoda and what do you call him? The what? Yeah, the guy that takes care of him. Mandalorian, okay. I don't know Star Wars, I just use it as a metaphor. So the Mandalorian, if you think about it, is the foster daddy, and the little baby Yoda is a foster baby. And so we liked that. So we all got a cookie if you turned in your evaluation. And then you can see down here on the bottom where people were creating that art. And we had real good conversations and moving those conversations forward very systematically so that we can keep them up at the top. So click. So asset-based community development. So we're harmonizing versus buy-in. We're using a mirror versus a target. We're really not going, yeah, that's what we want to accomplish. It's not a target. Even better, a window versus a mirror. Because I don't know what it is to be your life. You know what it is, so I need to be able to see that. A compass versus a ruler. So we're measuring and moving constantly. That's the really good thing about CRCG and system of care is that it can pivot really fast. When COVID hit, we only missed one CRCG meeting because everybody was pivoting. Then we got it online and we continued on, and it's really made us much better. A flashlight versus a hammer. You've heard if you're a hammer, you're just looking for nails. Yeah, we don't want that. So our success in 2023, and we're not even done yet, are those connections. We have now Celebrate Dyslexia is working with our juvenile probation in a formal collaboration with funding. They got a grant to test the kids that are coming through juvenile probation, because chances are real good. I think they estimated like higher than 80% are dyslexic. And so if you're dyslexic, I'm one of those people, and you can't do it, and you're not sure why, because you know you're smart, but you just can't do it, and then you start to misbehave, which I was a talker, can you tell? And so designated time to purposefully network. Bear CRCG is a Texas leader now. Our challenges, our system of care is an abstract concept, and so it takes a little while to wrap your brain around it if you're not used to thinking that way, and keeping up with the blessings. So we've got people all the time meeting wonderful new people, and I'm like, oh my God, now I've got to incorporate that into it. How do we harmonize? How do I get to email them? And because but that's okay. I volunteer other people all the time to do things for me. Click. So this is kind of the meat of what I see when I talk about system of care. Beautiful spider web. Each of the wedges are a different industry. So you can see all the industries there. And then the circles that go through those industries are the categories of how that industry or a particular organization meets with families. Do they come into the home? Do they go to the school? Are they in the community? Are they providing support to the people that go into the home, into the school, into the community, all the way out to policy issues? And looking at all of that through all the different industries, private as well as nonprofit, or for-profit as well as nonprofit. And because there may be something happening, we have a wonderful partner, 15RX, a pharmacy. And they're like, oh no, we need to give back and we need to be a part of this. I'm like, great, come on. It's not a place to make business. That's something else. No problem. But if you get blessed by one, that's fine too. So then the heart in the middle, I consider it the family or the whole community, kind of our family, our community family. The circles are those formal collaborations or those meeting places. The one I like to use as my example is Region 20, because that's where all the teachers go for their training, that's where all the schools go for their information. And so they're there, kind of the hub of that particular industry. And then the stars are those families and youth with lived experience that are associated with that somehow. We have a lot of wonderful youth groups here in Bexar County. And so bringing those all together and representatives in those particular hubs, and I just threw those up there, there's nothing official about them. So bringing the circles, and if they have lived experience working with them already, bringing them to the center, to that heart, with the information, with what's working, with what people are struggling with, all of that information, and then imagine the heart takes a beat, and all of that information goes right back out to everybody. And so that's how we stay connected. That heart is taking a beat. We bring it all in, it takes a beat, and we send it back out. How? I haven't figured that out yet. One of my geniuses is gonna do that for me. But it will happen because I'm thinking about it, Alice. So, yes.
5 minutes.
Oh, 5 minutes, let's go. That's all right, I got to the meat of it. Connecting people working in similar ways but in different spaces. So networks, hubs, and platforms, we had a session connecting those, city and state services, collaborations. We're gonna do one on insurance because I hear the word insurance and I go, I don't know. And then coding, because organizations are leaving money on the table. But that's the only thing I know about coding is there's a word and it equals money. So we need to learn more about that so that our organizations can work with one coder or I don't know, but there's money on the table and we need somebody that understands that, and we're gonna find them. And then we're gonna have a full event on October 13th. Oddly enough, it lands on a Friday, but it's gonna be very good luck. And then what you see here on the side is from the National Training and Technical Assistance Center from SAMHSA. And that's kind of what they see when they're thinking about it. So our spider web is a little bit more intense. Okay, I think we're going to the last one. So that is our history, our current state, the impact and progress, and then of course our future is building connections between people, aligning values and goals to create a shared vision. So we're all of what we need is in there, and then we all kind of, yeah, that includes me. We may have to give a little and get a little, but we need to start changing ourselves, learning about ourselves, because if you don't work on the person in the mirror, we're not getting anywhere. We all have to start with the person in the mirror. Then our departments, our organizations, policy, and then hopefully state policy. So that was really quick, and I think I have 1 minute. Any major questions? No? Okay, let's move forward. Thank you.
All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna get set up for our panel discussion. And if I can have my panel guests come forward. We're gonna now segue over into a conversation about youth mental health, because youth mental health is impacted by the fact that our systems haven't truly learned how to work well together. And so Alice did a very good setup for us to start talking about what success can look like when we do. So I have, hold on, let me get out from behind here. I just want to pull this out. There we go. Why this here?
Donna, what if we don't need a mic? What if we don't need a mic?
Well,
I can just lean into Alice. Not joking.
we'll pass it around because I want you to get on the recording.
You gotta get on the recording.
Do we pass this one around, or do we?
We're gonna pass both of them.
We know it looks funny, please. Bear with us.
Okay, you got it? Yeah, let me go ahead and get started. Okay. I'm going to start introducing our panel guest because I'm really excited for you to get to know who they are. We've already met Alice, who did our lovely presentation, but to her left, I have people by alphabetical order, and Deborah Balli.
We're not in order.
Balli is with us. She is, while she is a parent of one of the youth on our panel, she's also someone who's a strong advocate for youth mental health. Deborah was born and raised in McAllen, Texas. She graduated with a BBA from the University of Texas at Austin McCombs School of Business. She moved to Boerne in 2019 and currently works at USAA as a lead ICFR financial advisor. She is a single mama of 3 beautiful girls, loves getting involved in the community, traveling, and spending time with her family. Welcome, Deborah, to the panel. Next, we have Ms. Jennifer Forbes. Jennifer Forbes joined the Ecumenical Center in January of 2021 and is the Special Programs Director overseeing the Trauma-Informed Certification Program and Center for Young Minds. So if you attended my workshop this morning about trauma-informed faith communities, she would be one to talk to if you were one who wanted to become certified, your organization or your faith community. She's one to talk to. Each of these programs are collective efforts to create upstream behavioral health solutions and help organizations recognize the impact of trauma and the importance of mental health. Jennifer grew up in Wyoming and Colorado, then moved to Southwest Houston where she graduated high school. She earned her BA from the University of Austin with a double major in American history and cultural anthropology. Okay. And attended Purdue University, earning her MA in American History with a minor in Women's Studies. She returned to Texas, where she has worked with numerous nonprofits and governmental entities over the past 2 decades. Those 20 years have been dedicated to improving our community by ensuring agencies have the necessary resources to provide services, creating access to programs and trainings, and building a culture of care within our community. Jennifer lives in Fair Oaks Ranch, and her and her husband of 26 years have 2 amazing children. One is currently in her 2nd year at Texas A&M University, and the other is a senior at Champion High School in Boerne. Welcome, Jennifer, to the panel. And next we have Miss Evalyn Frer. Frers. Evalyn was born in Austin, Texas, and she moved to Boerne in 2019 and is currently in 9th grade at Boerne High School. And she loves her cat Luna, theater, drawing, and art. That's why I was drawn to you so much, because I'm a theater nerd. Welcome, Evalyn, to the panel. And last but not least, Miss Lanai Johnson. Lanai Johnson is currently a freshman biology major at University of Incarnate Word. Her former high school was Judson Early College Academy, and her hobbies are reading and listening to music of all genres. Welcome, Lanai, to the panel. All right, so what we're going to do is I have some questions to ask our guests, and they're going to answer them. All right? How's that sound?
Hi.
Okay, all right. First question I have is for Jennifer. Can you tell us your thoughts on the increase in youth mental illness?
Yes. So, do you want me to take this, or
yes.
I genuinely, like my husband swears, you can hear me a mile away. So, I don't want to yell into the microphone, but if anyone has any trouble, please let me know. I think a lot of times when we're talking about youth mental illness, we're talking specifically about depression, anxiety, behavioral issues, as well as the attention deficit and hyperactivity disorders are primarily what we're looking at and what we hear about. One of the things that I pulled some different information that I thought was super relevant and helpful is 50% of our lifetime illnesses begin by about 14. 75% have begun by the age of 24. And without being political, right, our youth are impacted early on. Texas is currently number 50 for the services that we provide for our access to mental health care for our youth. Interestingly, our youth, 10% of all of the youth in the United States resides in the state of Texas. 71% of our youth with mental health issues do not have access to services, which is significantly larger than the rest of the nation. So 10% of our overall youth in this country are really under-resourced. And so this is a huge issue. So what's caused the increase? One, COVID has been a big part of it. In the course, and even prior to COVID, I believe from 2016 to 2020, there was a noted 29% increase in kiddos 3 to 17 with diagnosed anxiety, a 27% increase in diagnosed depression, and this is from UT Health School of Public Health, and in the first year of the pandemic, what they found is that depression and anxiety doubled among youth compared to pre-pandemic estimates. So right now, or at the first year, we were looking at 1 in 4 youth with depressive symptoms and 1 in 5 with signs of anxiety. So what causes that? And I will be perfectly candid, right? We could go around the room and we come up with the same list, right? Social isolation, daily routine disruptions. Here in our community, there are a lot of risk factors, just, crazy levels of poverty, not having consistent access to health services, or food insecurity. Prior to the pandemic, our food insecurity among our youth was staggering, and it's only gotten worse with the pandemic. So I think there are a lot of things that I could tell you that I think, but can I defer and also, because so one of the things, and you'll hear more about this when I talk about the Center for Young Minds, one of the things that we've identified as a community is our great need to bring youth voice to the table, right? Our kids, in the words of Rick Griffin, we should our kids a lot, right? You should do this, you should do this, you should do this. And we need to really make sure that we're also incorporating them in that conversation of not what you should do, but what do you feel like you can help do? And so if you guys don't mind, because I totally am putting you on the spot, for which I will apologize. It's not very trauma-informed of me, and I do have 2 teenagers of my own who tell me, by the way, Mom, while you're in charge of a trauma-informed certification program, you are not always very trauma-informed. I try. It's a work in progress. For those of you who I know are going through the journey, it is a journey, and it is never fully complete. So do you guys have an opinion on what do you think for youth has caused an increase among your peers in mental health issues and concerns? Oh, and I'll hand the little fuzzy thing over too.
You want to take it? We got it.
Okay. And if you don't want to answer, you guys, you can just say, I don't know, and pass it along. I'll hand that over to you. Lanai, you want to?
You can do it. So in my opinion, I think a lot of people don't realize that a lot of our emotions are repressed, especially coming from the African American community. A lot of generations don't believe that mental health is a real health issue. So a lot of the times we say that anxiety and all these depression and all these mental health issues came after pandemic, but really we let it fester because for so long we didn't realize that it was there. I mean, I was diagnosed with anxiety, severe anxiety, for a long time, and I have been dealing with depression. So for me, I felt like it was really just the pandemic made and set that atmosphere that you were alone, So a lot of kids were struggling with that atmosphere of not really having their friends there. Because imagine, all day you go to school and you hang out with your friends, you talk to them, you do things, and they're like, yeah, let's go do this, let's go do that. So you have distractions. But you didn't get a distraction when you were in the pandemic because you didn't get to go out. You didn't get to do the things you like to do. So I feel like a lot of the times it only just amplified or highlighted the fact that we were already deprived of an outlet to release that emotion that we were holding in a lot of the time. So a lot of these kids that are coming afterwards after the pandemic are struggling because they realize like, oh, we really do have an issue and it's hard to solve because while I was alone sitting there thinking to myself, I now realize that I have an issue and I want help. But the thing is, a lot of people, the generations before us, especially, like I said again, in the African American community, don't take mental health very seriously. So it's very important that we bring awareness to such an issue because a lot of the times they forget that mental health is just as important as every other health. A broken bone is no less than, anxiety. So sometimes remembering that was really hard. So I think a lot of the times after the pandemic, that brought a lot of repressed emotions forward. So that's just my opinion that it was already there and just highlighted it when you were isolated.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Let me grab the mic. All right. Well, Evalyn, I'm going to pose a question to you, if you don't mind. Often kids spend more time talking with their peers than they talk to their parents. It can be difficult to help them navigate life and open up to a parent or a trusted adult. What are some ideas for talking to children or teens so that we can better understand their feelings and gauge their mental health? What are some ideas that you can help us adults with?
What is some advice you can give to adults to help?
What has helped you?
I guess, do I speak?
Yes,
Mike.
talk into the fuzzy.
Give me the mic.
Oh, you need to?
Oh, yeah, you do.
What has helped you talk to me before?
I guess knowing that you were there for me.
Yeah.
And one thing that a lot of people don't think do enough is like telling your kids every once in a while, hey, I'm here for you, you can talk to me whenever you want, I am a safe space for you. And I feel like if parents did that more, then kids would open up more.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Do you mind giving the mic, Mom? Because I wanted to talk to you, Mom, for a second. Well, what helped you? Because I'm a mom, I have 11, and let me tell you that it can be scary when you realize your child is struggling with your mental health. What helped you to be able to transcend that fear and be present for Evalyn?
So it was a journey for us. In 2021 is when we had the episode of SI, and Ava was admitted into Clarity. What helped me? Two things. One is stop thinking it's about me.
Yeah.
So stop thinking it's a reflection of my parenting. Stop thinking it's a reflection of what I've done or haven't done. That was a big one for me. That was hard because I always pressed for being there for my kids, and my ex-husband was an alcoholic, and so there was a lot of like, what if I didn't stay? What if I would have left earlier? Right? Like, this is my fault that this is happening. And once I let go of that, I was able to hear her better and hear her needs. So I had to get out of my own way, honestly. And the second one was, once I got out of my own way, I was like, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
You know, I have a degree in finance and accounting, not in mental health. So I did what I know how to do when I don't know an answer, is I got answers. I got help from myself. And that really helped me not only cope with what we were going through, because the same year that happened and she went into Clarity, I got divorced. And I was recovering from COVID. So it wasn't a fun year. But those are the two things. So, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, pass it to Jennifer. Jennifer, thank you so much for that. To kind of like add to that, what are some creative ways that parents can talk to their youth about mental health?
So I think, honestly, I don't know how creative it is, but be honest with your kids and be vulnerable. You don't have to have all the answers. Feel free if you want. I will give you my son's contact info. He will tell you I don't have half of them, and what I have is not right. I'm joking. And I say that very, very jokingly, but sometimes as parents, we just want to get up there and we want to make sure they're safe. We want to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing according to us. Yeah. And we have to give them the ability to learn, to make mistakes, and it very much to what Deborah said, recognize that isn't our fault or that isn't a sign of our parenting necessarily, and in some cases it may be, and that's okay too, but our kids have to be given the ability to find themselves, to really launch themselves. I more than anything, it's okay to not be an expert. It's okay to say, that's a good question. I don't know, but I will work with you. I will support you to find an answer. And I think that allowing your kids to see that level of vulnerability, it's not comfortable, and that's okay too. Again, we have this concept of, and I totally have to come back and credit Rick Griffin on this. We have sometimes this mixed understanding of what is uncomfortable versus what is unsafe. And sometimes we just have to be at peace that we can't always be comfortable, and that's okay. There is a very distinct difference from being uncomfortable versus being unsafe. And it's not only something people are willing or happy to deal with, but as a parent really truly talking to your kids about mental health, the other thing in addition to that is recognize some of the things they will tell you, you may not want to hear. But listen, stop talking. This is a problem like Alice, I also have. Stop talking. Sorry, totally threw you under the bus. But I do, I sometimes.
You join our
just,
support group.
Yes. But it is important to make sure our kids get to have their voice and that they get to be heard.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
That was something that I also realized during our journey was at first, as a parent, you want to fix it for them. Just want to fix it, take the pain away. But it wasn't really until she got help and was able to experience her pain, right? Experience it in a controlled fashion and get help that I could hear what she needed. So I stopped trying to fix her the way I thought would be the right way. But I heard what her needs were.
Yeah. Well, my next question was for the two of you, Evalyn and Deborah. How did you begin to educate yourself and others because of your experience?
We left her, they kind of left us with nothing, so we had to do it all on our own.
You had to figure it out on your own?
Yeah.
And what did you figure out? It's okay.
I think something that she has figured out, she's just so nervous, is that as she shares her stories with classmates, they open up to her.
Yeah.
And she has actually helped one of her friends already stop these, suicide attempts.
Yeah.
So she did that, and just even yesterday, she brought another classmate to my attention that is in need of help and is in a dangerous situation at home. So I have to give her credit, because she won't say it for herself right now, but when she just reaches out to other kids and relates to them and is vulnerable, they'll open up to her and they'll seek help.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
One thing that most of you guys are probably familiar with, the City of San Antonio's Youth Commission put out a tremendous youth survey that they had over 800 responses to. And the reality is that our kids go to each other before they go to an adult. And so huge kudos to both of you for sitting up here, but for being advocates of mental health for your peers, because y'all are the ones that are going to make the difference. Because at the end of the day, suicide is the #1 cause of death for our youth, ages 10 to 14. That is staggering. 10 to 14, suicide second leading cause of death. And it's only because we are providing opportunities, hopefully they'll need to expand this. It's only because we're providing really empowering our advocates, our youth advocates, to speak up and to take a stand and to be that level of support that is essential.
Yeah. I know I've had conversations with Evalyn before about the need for there to be more teen support groups. And that's something that I I actually sometimes wake up thinking about, because I want that to happen, to be more spaces for teens to talk about mental health and find that social support and to find that support in community so we can start normalizing the conversation. Evelyn's an advocate. She doesn't know just how powerful her voice is, but your voice is so powerful. So keep doing what you're doing, because you're doing amazing work. So, Miss Alice, you thought you were just going to sit here and look pretty. So, I do have a question for you. What are the most pressing barriers to accessing mental health care, and how can we work collaboratively to address them?
What a small question. I think one is what I talked about before. You know, if you're working in the mental health or really any field, you're working. And so you have a tendency to look down and work. It's when we look up and we see each other and we go find help or allies that the work even gets lighter and better and even sometimes fun. So I think that's one. So getting to know and understanding and really meeting each other. I think trust is a giant issue because I said I come from the early childhood field, and I can remember families that were just so fragile, that I had a real hard time referring them to an organization if I didn't trust the organization. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't, because I'm like, no, I met somebody there and I didn't like it. So that trust is, and to an organization, because you, an individual, I can trust, but sometimes people change jobs. Or they win the lotto and they take off on their world cruise or whatever's going to happen. And so the organization is still there. So that's one thing that with system of care, building us with the organization so that when somebody comes back 5-6 years later, that organization is still there. They're still trauma informed. They're still doing the work and you can trust that they'll get taken care of. What was the second half of that question?
And how can we work collaboratively to address?
Come to system of care meetings, I'll send you an email. But yeah, show up in rooms like this and learn about everybody else, pick up the cards, go to the different conferences and meetings and get to know people again.
All right, I'm noticing the time, but it just came up for me and it's not one of the questions, so I'll be kind. I want to know from each of you, what do we need more of as it relates to youth mental health? And if we could have it like today, what would that look like as far as youth mental health is concerned? Lanai, I'm gonna put this over to Lanai. We'll start with you.
I'm ready to answer.
For me personally, I feel like for my community, I feel like we need to have more conversations with parents so that it usually starts there. Because for me, my family is everything, so it's always been my lifeline. So sometimes starting there, because that's where we usually start when we need help. You know, when we're looking and searching for someone we can depend on, that's where we start. So maybe parenting classes that can teach that, hey, mental health is very serious, you know, here are the signs. Because sometimes, a lot of the times, I think that kids get so stuck thinking that no one's there, no one cares, because sometimes we're all busy living our lives, and sometimes we forget that everybody's living their lives, and that sometimes we might have to slow down. You know, sometimes just eating dinner at the table together, you know, and really talking about your day is important, you know, really asking your child, oh, what did you do today? What did you like about school today? Just getting to know the small things, because sometimes just that little bit of information gives them a feeling of trust that you care about their day, whether big or small something happens. So really just starting at that parent level, because that's where you usually go to start, you know. And so sometimes it allows finally for parents to see that, oh, I missed this on. My child stopped talking to me, but I really just thought that she wanted her own space. But really, she needs help. She needs help, you know. And it's hard for me because I feel like when I was going to school in high school, a lot of people were doing suicide. I would even get notifications and be like, hey, so-and-so just died. And the family was asking for prayers and to send our way. So when you consistently have to hear that, you get numb to the sense of always hearing that someone just, is next, someone's died, and it's such sad news. And so I sometimes think that people don't realize that it can happen to you. It's happening in your own home. You don't realize it until it's too late. And a lot of people watch it on the news, and they're like, oh man, that the statistics are terrible. But little do they know that one of their kids in their home are also suffering from one of those mental health illnesses that lead to their death. And you can't go back and change that once they're already gone. So I think those parenting classes to recognize those signs so that they can get the help they need. Because no, I'm not asking every parent to solve it. I'm asking for them to see it so that hopefully they can address it and find somebody that does know how to do it. And
That's
those
good.
programs that will help them get the help they truly need so that your child can be healthy and better. And that's my opinion.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. So educating the parents, that's good. Thank you. Evalyn, what do we need more of? It's okay. That's fine. Yeah.
I think there's two things. One is having more discussions like this, right? But in your everyday life. I am so honored to be here. Thank you so much because I get to learn from all the activities that Donna asked us to be asked. It was wonderful. But we do need to talk about it more at home, at school, in your communities. To be okay to talk about mental health, to take away that stigma. I grew up in on the border, and it was also taboo to talk about your feelings, and it meant something was wrong with you at the time. And I finally learned in my mid-20s, no, it can actually be a superpower, right? Like having intuition and having empathy can really be a superpower of mine. Now, thankfully, I get to put it to use with my own children. But it's just making this more common practice in starting in the home, in the schools, in the community, etc. The second thing that I think is really important is prevention. It's getting involved before the trauma. Right? And this is a big lesson I've learned. I have 3 girls, right? And I got engaged when the trauma occurred, right? But now, with my youngest, I got her in therapy. And people have asked me, well, why? What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. She's doing great. But I want her to have the tools now that Ava has been getting when a trauma occurs, because it's life, right? And we spend so much as parents in football practice, softball practice, dance. It's like, how about learning about mental health? And learning the tools. And so that's the other thing I think we could do more of is more preventive. And not waiting until the trauma occurs. Because sometimes trauma is going to likely happen. I mean, think about the numbers that you talked about this morning, right? It's likely going to occur. We just don't know when and what. And let's get our kids ready for it when it happens.
Thank you. That was good.
We're about to wrap up. I would love for them to now empower our kids to use their voice and know that their voice matters. Empower our kids to understand that they count, that they are important, and just stop and listen. So that's one thing.
Thank you. Thank you. Listen, can y'all give us a round of applause for our guests? Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.